One misconception I feel a lot of amateur or hobby video creators make before making their first video, it takes a lot more equipment than just having a camera. But having a little bit more equipment in your arsenal will make your videos stand out just that much better. Today, I'm gonna make a list of equipment I feel every video maker should have in their arsenal. But before we begin, make sure to like this video and subscribe so you can make sure to get more future content from me. I'm always asked this question about what equipment is best for video making or photography, and every videographer and photographer has their own preference. And for my list, I narrowed it down to 15 things. In my list, I kind of rank it by the importance of what you should have, but you don't have to follow this order if you don't have the budget for it. In the end, you should have these 15 necessities in your video arsenal. First and foremost, you need a camera. I mean, if you want to make videos, you need to have some kind of camera. Now, I'm not going to specify which one to get because I have different needs compared to what you need. And it really all depends on what you plan to film. If you plan to go cinematic, maybe consider a really good mirrorless, or maybe cough up a couple grand for a really good cinema camera. But if you want something better than a phone but can still take really good video, then a nice point and shoot would be perfect. And the majority of people have access to a phone now that has really good video. So right there, you could save yourself a couple bucks. The only requirement I would have is to make sure your camera can film at 1920 by 1080 with at least 24 to 30 frames per second. The next item I suggest is have at least 2 lenses. Now this is going to be different depending on what kind of camera you have. If you have something with a fixed lens, let's say a phone or a point and shoot, or even a camcorder, there are adapters for these cameras so you can attach wide angles, even fisheye lenses. This suggestion is geared more towards those interchangeable lens cameras such as mirrorless and DSLRs. It's always good to have 2 lenses for different reasons. The next item I suggest is a variable neutral density filter, or ND filter. ND filters are very useful. Essentially, they're like sunglasses for your camera. Sometimes if you take photos or video outside, you find yourself cranking up the aperture and the shutter speed, and then your images don't come out looking very pretty. Putting an ND filter on your camera will help you get that shallow cinematic look. You can get ND filters as a set, but I highly suggest you get the single variable ND filter. This way it's just one filter and you can then change between having a very low setting or a very high setting on the filter. I suggest getting the widest diameter possible and then buy a set of step up and step down rings. This way you have that one filter and then you can attach it to any lens no matter what size it is. The next item is a good tripod. A good tripod will last you for a long time. Back home, I actually had my dad's old tripod that I used all through film school. I finally gave it back to him once I invested in a really good tripod. If you're gonna shoot vlogs, you're gonna need something stable rather than using a stack of books or a box. Next, you wanna have sound equipment. I think I've said this in a lot of videos and it still rings true. Sound is 50% of your video. So I'm gonna give you a sub list of items that you should get in your sound equipment. You should have a very good on-camera microphone. It's the bare minimum sound equipment you should own. Next, you should get an audio recorder. The reason for it is to have an additional audio source in case your camera audio doesn't work. Along with that, if you wanna do some narration or voiceover for other videos, then you have a dedicated device that's purely for audio. Next, you should get a lapel or lavalier mic. Having a lapel mic will definitely give you some better sounding audio when you do talking heads. You should then look into a boom stand so that way your shotgun mic can be mounted on that and then hung overhead. That way you could attach the lapel mic to yourself and you have 2 sources of audio and they're both going to sound really crisp and clean. Next item on my list is a portable LED light or even just getting a light kit. Lighting is very, very essential to video. Just because cameras are pretty good in low lighting doesn't mean it's gonna look the best. So having at least one light will help elevate your images when you're out filming. If you have a little extra cash, I suggest getting a light kit as well, so that way you could have a nice lighting setup when you do your videos at home. And this brings me to my next item on my list, which is light stands. Ironically, some light kits don't come with stands, so I suggest buying a couple extra light stands. You don't necessarily have to use it just for lights. You can use it to hold your camera, you can even hang stuff off of it. There's plenty of uses for a light stand. Next, you want to get some extra batteries. This is a given. You should definitely have some extra batteries on hand no matter what. Next, you should have extra media cards. It's good to have a couple extra cards so that way during travel or on full production days, that way if you fill up one card, you can keep filming and back up that card at the same time. The next item on my list is an external hard drive. This is more perspective from my editing side. I'd rather not put all my raw assets on my internal hard drive of my computer, because if that computer dies all of a sudden, there goes all my footage. Plus, you only have so much room on that internal hard drive. Having an external hard drive, you can take it anywhere with you, and also it keeps your computer free so that way it speeds up the editing time. The next item is a multi-tool or a Swiss Army knife. Now this isn't really a camera tool. Sometimes screws get loose, or maybe you need to tighten the tripod plate onto your camera. There's a lot of uses for it. Next, you should get a very good bag. Camera bags are essential, especially if you plan to travel or just walk around with your camera. And if you invest in a good one, it should last for a while. And plus, you don't have to stick with the generic standard camera bag that comes with your kit. You can find one that's a little bit more fashionable, so that way, just gives you some personality. Next is an external monitor. I think if you're not a camera enthusiast or cinematographer, then an external monitor is probably not on your mind. A lot of cameras nowadays have a flip out or a flip up screen so that you can look at yourself while you're filming, but sometimes that screen's a little too small. If you're getting older, you want a bigger screen. Having an external monitor, it just kind of helps. That way you can look from a distance or have a wider field of view when you focus or are just looking at your image. It's also kind of annoying if you're reviewing photos and videos and people are crowding around you, then you have a bigger screen for people to look at. The next thing to look at is a cleaning kit. This is a given. There's really no deep meaning as to why I say get it. It's just so that way you can clean your lenses really well and then just take care of your camera. And finally, I suggest getting a portable rig. Having some kind of portable rig will help keep your camera steady. Monopods work really well, but depending on how heavy your camera is, then the monopod still gets a little shaky. GorillaPods, it's the same thing, but they're more portable. The best tool, and probably the most expensive, is one of those handheld gimbals. I used to not really like using gimbals, but now I kind of see the benefits of it. So I would say it's a good investment to have, especially if you want to have really smooth footage. And there you have it. Those are my 15 items all video creators should have in their arsenal. So if you guys like this list, make sure to like this video and subscribe so that way you can get some more future videos from me. Definitely follow me on Instagram where you can see some more content from me. And leave a comment below. Tell me what equipment you already had or what equipment you didn't expect on my list, or maybe something that you think I should have put on my list, and we can debate it out. Until next video, see ya.